What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the pre-lock show for Thursday Night Football here on RotoGrinders. Happy to be with you, breaking down another Thursday night game. At least a reasonably intriguing game tonight with the 6-3 Tennessee Titans taking on what appears to be maybe something of a rejuvenated Packers team, fresh off of a come-from-behind win over the Cowboys last Sunday. So, pretty pivotal game in terms of the playoff picture. The Packers certainly aren't out of it in the weaker NFC at 4-6, and the Titans appear poised to finish atop the AFC South. So we'll break it down here for you over the next half an hour, heading up until kickoff. Break down the DFS angles from this game, and to help do that is myself, Justin Van Zuiden, and we've got TJ Zwarych alongside on this Thursday night. TJ, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. The last couple days were pretty cool, though. I'm relatively new as a tout. I've only been doing this for about 6-ish months, maybe even a little less than that. And just the last couple weeks, the tweets have been starting to come in of like, hey, thanks at TJ_Zwarich5 for the picks today. Won a lot of money listening on Crunch Time. And that's a pretty damn good feeling. That's pretty cool. And so looking forward to some more of that. Ready to help people pick some winners tonight, win some money. We got some free content, so let's hit the like button and get into this NFL slate.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. It is always nice to get some recognition when your picks do well. So it's nice to see when it pays off and helps others. That's always a great feeling. We'll see if we can't do that tonight for this game with the Packers and the Titans. And what do we think as far as this game playing out? I mean, we got the Packers. Finally, they played a bit better last week. Came from behind, got that victory over the Cowboys, and suddenly they're favored by 4 points at home against a team that's 6-3. So, do you think that the Packers control this game? How do we see this one going tonight?
I think the last time you and I were on a show together was also when the Packers were on primetime. And, I actually think this might be a bit of a letdown spot for them. I don't know if they're quite as strong as they showed last game. And even so, Dallas's offense still torched them. And I think we're in for a very big Derrick Henry day. And I don't mind mixing it in with some run backs on the Packers side on the other half. But producer Steve and I were talking before the game. His one bet is Tennessee money line, and I don't mind that one. I actually think Tennessee might come out with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree on it being a letdown spot for the Packers. I mean, they're 4-6. It's not like they can just coast at this point. They need every win that they can get. They're at home. It's cold. I don't mind the logic of thinking Tennessee might win the game. I just don't know if the letdown angle is the way to approach it.
It might have been poor wording on that one. I don't think the Packers are just going to be laying a complete egg. I just think people are going to be viewing the Packers as better than a 4-6 team today.
Yeah.
After like last week's performance against Dallas, I think people are going to be like, oh, the Packers are back. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be the 4-6 Packers team we've seen all season.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment. There are plenty of flaws on the team, namely at wide receiver. They haven't had a guy consistently catch the ball. Now, that was Christian Watson last week. He had a huge game. And they do get Randall Cobb back tonight, but there's still this is a team that's lacking a true number one receiver. You basically got Allen Lazard, Watson, Cobb is back to operate as the third guy, and then you're throwing balls to Aaron Jones out of the backfield. And that kind of leads to everyone just saying, well, we should just play Derrick Henry at captain tonight. We've got him at 27% owned on DraftKings. Almost double basically anybody else in terms of projected ownership. Leverage is certainly a thing on these types of slates, but I know you mentioned you think it's going to be a big Derrick Henry night. So are we just locking in Henry at captain then? What are we doing here?
So this is why it's tough for me, because my brain tells me it's going to be a Derrick Henry smash day, but he's also going over-owned in the captain and MVP position. So starting on DraftKings, I think he's more appropriately owned here than he is on FanDuel. I think FanDuel, he's going even a little too excessively owned in the captain position. But optimally speaking, I'm going Derrick Henry here. In most of my builds today, I'm only playing on FanDuel, but in most of my builds today, I'm either having Derrick Henry in the captain and building a script with specific players in it to try and get different, or I'm doing a Ryan Tannehill stack, or just trying to get completely off the board with a captain spot here. Like, to me, Derrick Henry is the top option. He is who we're putting there in optimals, but I don't think we have to lock him in there if we're running 150 or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, some people might take that approach if he's going to be super chalky. You just hope it's a huge day and you lock him in. I'm not usually the type that does that either. It's just tough to go, okay, I'm going to plug in 150 Derrick Henry lineups. Certainly, he's the optimal play in cash game type of builds. He's definitely going to project a little better on FanDuel with the half-point PPR, plus the fact that you don't have the salary multiplier. On DraftKings for tournaments, for sure, I think there's a conversation to be had with some of these other guys. And obviously, Aaron Jones is probably your safest guy on the Packers side. You can always captain Rodgers. Maybe you want to take a shot on one of these pass catchers. Feels a little bit like chasing points with Watson, but I think the way we've got the ownership is probably about right. In some GPP builds, I'll be overweight on these guys. Is there anybody you could think of as like a super mega contrarian type of captain that you would be okay throwing in some large field GPP lineups?
This is going to be one of the more different shows in a while to me, dependent on the site that we're looking at. So on DraftKings, the most contrarian type captain I think I'd want to look at would be maybe like I'd rather go with somebody on the Titans as opposed to Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones, because they're still going appropriately owned or almost appropriately owned in that spot anyways. We don't really know who it's going to be of the Packers pass catchers who goes off today. If I'm picking a Packers pass catcher, it's going to be Randall Cobb. $300. And just pick everybody else who I want in my lineup. He's only going to be 3% owned. You're not going to be getting too many dupes there. If I wanted to get very different, I think Randall Cobb would be the MVP I'd go with, just thinking, hey, maybe Rodgers gets his security blanket back and he catches 2 touchdowns, something like that. So he'd be the very contrarian MVP I'd want to go with. The other one would be potentially somebody like an A.J. Dillon. But even all these Packers guys, I think I kind of see them going appropriately owned. Where I'd want to differentiate is going with one of these Titans players in tournaments, because the Packers guys are picking up the appropriate amount of ownership. Derrick Henry's picking up about 10% too much. And that 10% is coming out of the other Titans players. So I think my favorite tournament MVP would be Ryan Tannehill. And then if we're trying to get super contrarian, I think going with somebody like Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, or even if I was running 150 lineups, I'd maybe even mixing in somebody like a Dontrell Hilliard.
Yeah, I think Woods would be my favorite of those lower-owned Tennessee guys. We've got him at 2% in the captain. You mentioned Dillon. I think Tanyan, if he gets a couple touchdowns, could end up sneaking his way up towards an optimal type of build. And all these guys, you're getting really low ownership. Doesn't take much to get overweight on the field in the captain spot with these guys. But certainly the optimal way to go for most people is going to be with Henry. Let's go ahead and kind of move through the positions. But, we've got Rodgers at 52% in the flex. We've got Tannehill at 33% in the flex. Do you play both quarterbacks? Do you play one of the two quarterbacks? How do you handle this? Is relatively low ownership compared to what we see on a lot of showdown slates for quarterbacks. So
you are playing 2 of the 3 of Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, and Aaron Jones. It is just kind of up to deciding at this point which of those we aren't going to prioritize, which of those ones that we're going to leave off. So I kind of want to fiddle around with something here real quick. If we put all 4 of them in, how much salary does that leave us with?
Nope, can't have Derrick Henry twice. I tried to hit Henry twice. $700 per player. So if you put Randall Cobb in, there's Cobb. You've got $1,200.
I think there are crazier things than doing that, but I don't think that's optimal. I think that's an interesting tournament type situation. So I think in optimals, we have to sacrifice one of Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, and Ryan Tannehill. Of that group, who is your least favorite? Projections say Tannehill's the guy we want to leave off.
That would probably be the guy I'd want to leave off. So,
and I'm good with that. And I think that just increases the likelihood of, like, if I was building an optimal and this is how I was looking at it, I'd put this in my single entries, my double ups, my quintuple ups, my triple ups, that type of thing. And then my tournament lineup that I had was a little riskier and I had in less dollars. I would throw Ryan Tannehill as my captain, since I don't have very many of those guys here.
Yeah, and that gets you away from Henry, and if all the touchdowns come through the air, Henry doesn't catch a lot of passes, so that would make sense to get away from that Henry chalk. You could put Tannehill in the captain, and then you could put one of his pass catchers like Burks in the flex. You get $8,600 for your last spot, so you can do what you want with that. So you can kind of mix and match with, say, 4 of those 5 kind of guys. Cobb being mega cheap on DraftKings helps. That $200 salary. The build will look a little bit different on FanDuel, where you have a much higher salary floor. So you don't necessarily need to prioritize a mega cheap guy over there, but oftentimes it makes things work on these DraftKings type of builds. Let's just talk in general about some of these other pass catchers. I mean, there's a lot of hit or miss guys on these teams. We know the Packers have struggled to get the ball consistently to their wide receivers all year. Tennessee doesn't have the most talented group of wide receivers, and they've been using a rookie quarterback for a few weeks. The fact that Tannehill's back does help their pass catchers a bit, but who are we feeling pretty comfortable with here?
I mean, Luch in the chat right now feels pretty comfortable with Austin Hooper. But I think if I like Austin Hooper's price tag. I like Robert Tonyan's price tag. I think the tight ends are in a really good spot today. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a shot on even somebody like a Mercedes Lewis or a Josiah Degara Chigokongwu today. I think all of them are viable. On DraftKings, I think my priority pass catcher is Randall Cobb, and then from the Titans, it's going to be Burks.
Yeah, I don't mind Burks or Woods not playing Westbrook-Akine, not playing Watkins. I think the Packers are clearly going to use Lazard, Watson, and Cobb as their top 3 receivers. Tonyan, obviously, good red zone target. I think Watkins maybe gets squeezed out a little bit. Romeo Doubs is inactive, so Samori Toure will be active, but will probably only play on a handful of snaps. That's probably going to be their pecking order in terms of wide receivers. And based on the salary, I mean, it's hard to ignore Cobb at $200. Long time kind of security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. Watson will pick up some ownership because of last week. And you can see, even despite the struggles of all those Green Bay pass catchers, we have them as the 3 highest owned wide receivers ahead of all of the Tennessee guys. So again, goes to that tournament type of build where if you can use Tannehill at the captain, use Burks, maybe use Hooper, and you get pivots away from the Green Bay receivers that are chalkier, plus getting away from Derrick Henry a little bit in some of those tournament builds. All right, defenses, Packers, we've got at 23%, 3,800. Titans, we've got at 14% ownership, 4,400. Kickers, the regular kicker for the Titans, whose name escapes me at the moment, is out, but Josh Lambo will kick tonight. We've got him. Yeah, Bullock. There you go. The kickers bounce around so much that it's hard for me to remember some of these guys that get hurt. But he's out. You're not playing him anyway. Lambo at 20% ownership. Crosby at 19% ownership. Still kicking for Green Bay these days. And all of them are right around that $4,000 price mark. So they fit into this build right that we've got here right now just fine if you leave in some salary on the table, or you can upgrade somewhere, obviously. But between the 2 kickers and the 2 defenses that are all basically around the same price and similar ownership, do you have a take on say if I've got a lineup where one of these spots fits nicely, do we like a kicker better, a defense better? What do you think?
I like all of the above, but only in specific lineups. Like it's really only in with them in the captain position as contrarian spots, or with Derrick Henry or Aaron Jones as the MVP or captain. That's kind of the only way I'm looking at these players. Of that group, my priority is going to be the Titans defense in tournaments, super low owned, a little bit more expensive than the Packers. That's priority one for me, pairing them with Derrick Henry. And I definitely don't mind the kickers in this spot either, especially on DraftKings.
Yeah, never a problem taking the kickers at kind of those salaries, especially for safety. Don't love it for ceiling in cold weather, but you get these two offenses very capable of having dry stall as well. So, the kickers could easily get 9-10 points tonight, and then they're reasonably safe at those salaries. Anything else in terms of the DraftKings plays? We can pivot over and talk about FanDuel a little bit too. But anything else for the DK build that we have not covered from your angles?
Nope. I think we got it all.
All right. I will pivot the screen share over to FanDuel. While we're doing that, don't forget, we've got you covered for sports betting needs over at scoresandodds.com. You can check it out for everything to make you a better sports bettor, including the new Parlay IQ tool, which you can integrate directly and enter your picks on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Build your optimized same-game parlay based on data from thousands of simulated games. With the click of a button, you can put that onto the FanDuel Sportsbook. And then also, you may have heard about Stat Hero, but if you haven't, Stat Hero is a unique fantasy sports platform which allows users to compete only against the house and not against the other players in a contest. You can participate in head-to-head style contests where Stat Hero provides a lineup that you have to beat with your own, pick'em style contests, and there's also the Big Dime League, which is a season-long leaderboard contest with up to $50,000 in prizes that you can enter all season long. You can use promo code Grinders, get a deposit match up to $250, 50% deposit bonus there, and you can jump into the action today. Again, that's promo code Grinders over at Stat Hero. Check them out either on the web or on the mobile app. So, all right, let's talk about FanDuel here. You mentioned you're playing most of your lineups over on FanDuel tonight. I think the ownership's going to be even more concentrated among the top players because you don't need those punt plays quite as much on FanDuel. You have half-point PPR, which maybe makes Derrick Henry a little bit more appealing. Are we taking the same approach at MVP? Are we higher, lower on Henry? What do you think?
Still very high on Henry, but I think he is going over owned. So it's very similar story in the MVP/captain spot for me because my heart and my heart tells me it's going to be Derrick Henry. My brain tells me he's going over owned. So the way I'm doing it is I have Derrick Henry in the MVP at about half of my lineups. In those lineups, I'm just leaving a lot of salary on the table. Like you mentioned, we don't really need these punt spots on this lineup. But we don't really know who the outside of Henry, Rogers, Jones, are we really that confident in anybody today? And so that's why I'm taking shots on guys like Dontrell Hilliard, guys like Sammy Watkins, super, super cheap plays that not a lot of people are going to be getting to in my Derrick Henry lineups today. And then to differentiate, again, my favorite way is Ryan Tannehill. If we look at the MVP position and the ownerships there, Tannehill sub 10% right now. A quarterback shouldn't be sub 10% in the showdown slate. And so he'd be my favorite way to differentiate in tournaments. And then outside of that, I'm just looking to play anybody not named Rogers, Jones, Lazard. Like Christian Watson MVP, sure. AJ Dillon MVP, sure. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, kickers, defenses, good with any of it, go for it. So for me, it's Derrick Henry if I'm playing one of the chalky guys, not Rogers, Jones, or Lazard. However, if I'm not going to play Henry, my favorite option is Tannehill or just getting way off the board.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at all the ownership on Lazard. Like, I don't know, he's fine, but it's not like he's had that breakout season that everyone was expecting. Like, even a couple weeks ago, when he got 10 targets, he only caught 4 of them. Didn't really do much last week. It was kind of Watson doing most of the work, and now they've got Cobb back. So I'm with you on really not feeling Lazard as the fourth highest owned MVP. I'd rather would go off the board. Kind of, we're in lockstep on how to handle that MVP position on FanDuel. And you
And
can
we
take.
got almost 150 people watching us right now, only 25 likes on YouTube. We're going to get through this FanDuel build quick and hit QQs. We're going to look at the Discord, and for our premium members first, we'll look at that NFL Crunch Time chat. But if we want to get QQs out of the YouTube folk, we need at least 40 likes before we start taking any questions from there.
All right, hit that like button. Appreciate it very much. Help us defeat the YouTube algorithm at least as much as we can. So you can do, as we mentioned, the same type of build where you got kind of three of those big four guys, and then you can play maybe one or two kind of cheap punts that aren't getting a whole lot of ownership. The Hoopers, Tanyan's pretty cheap on FanDuel as well. This leaves you with 9K. Like, you played Hooper and Tanyan, you'd have 2K left on the table. TJ mentioned, potentially leaving quite a bit of salary on the table on FanDuel tonight.
I think I have a couple teams that I'm like, I think I'm playing about 10 lineups, and I think a couple of them have like 8K left on the table.
Any particular players that maybe you like a little better on FanDuel? Like, the Tennessee receivers are really cheap on FanDuel, and Wes Akine is more expensive than Woods and Burks, which is interesting.
For me, Randall Cobb is basically just X'd out of the pool on FanDuel. If I want to play him, it's going to be on DraftKings. Sammy Watkins is a bump on FanDuel. Robert Woods is a big bump on FanDuel. Treylon Burks is a bump on FanDuel. I'm getting to a lot more of them. Christian Watson and Allen Lazard I will still get to, but I kind of feel like everybody's going to be. And so I have a few lineups that are relatively chalky, and then I'm just subbing in somebody like Sammy Watkins instead of Allen Lazard or Christian Watson, even though I have the salary, just to try and get a little bit different. The tight ends are fantastic. Hooper's great. Tanyan's a great salary saver today. The defenses and the kickers are fine as well. I'm good with them for tournaments. I do think we should try and build a optimal FanDuel first three positions here first, quick before lock.
Was that it? Is it? Well, optimal is probably Henry and the captain, right? Or Henry and the
MVP. Henry and the captain. I think from there, I probably would prioritize those next two guys you have in there next, Rodgers and Jones. You got that 6,700 left.
Is that doable optimally? I don't know.
Optimally, that's probably the thing. I think you might have to take out Aaron Rodgers and sub in Ryan Tannehill.
Because you're getting way too punty. Yeah, now you're at 7,250, which is doable.
It allows you to use the Hoopers, Tanyans, Watkins, Cobb if you really want stuff like that. It gives you a lot more options in your last two spots there.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Most of your kind of starting points will probably include at least two of those three players. It is a little bit harder to fit on FanDuel because you don't have that $200 Randall Cobb free square on FanDuel, or at least if you think Cobb's a free square on DraftKings, some people might intentionally be fading him, thinking that he's not going to do much in his return. But everybody is entitled to their opinion on that, of course. And it's just a little bit tougher to fit all those studs in together on FanDuel. So I think that's a pretty good approach. All right.
FanDuel favorite contrarian MVP. It's Tannehill, but if I want to get very contrarian, it's probably Robert Woods or Treylon Burks. And then if super duper contrarian, it'd be Dontrell Hilliard. And then favorite contrarian flex option, it's the same in Dontrell Hilliard, and then it's also Sammy Watkins, and then somewhat less contrarian but still decently contrarian, it's the Titans defense.
Jason in the YouTube chat has mentioned that it's freezing cold in Green Bay, so play the field position game, play the defenses, drop passes, fumbles, what have you. Maybe that's why the Packers released Amari Rodgers, who had, I believe, 8 career receptions and 7 career fumbles. And he was picked up by the Texans this week. So we'll see if he can hold on to the ball a little better in Houston than he did in Green Bay. But if you have questions, we got about 4 minutes here until the game starts. TJ's push for people hitting the thumbs up button has worked. We're up to 43 there. So if you have some questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And we will certainly answer those here so you can get your lineups finalized here before we hit lock. No surprises as far as news over the last 45 minutes. Again, if you're just catching up, actives and inactives, no major surprises. Romeo Doubs is out for the Packers. Randall Cobb is back. All that was pretty much expected as we approached the game. So I am checking the Discord chat now.
It's who do you like better just straight up between Burks and Woods? If you're choosing one, who are you choosing? For me, I think it's Woods, but it's pretty like I said here, there you go. My mouth just said Woods and I typed in Burks. It's like I think it's literally a coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, if you need the salary, whoever's cheaper is fine. Like on FanDuel, Burks is 8 and Woods is 85. I think Burks is a little cheaper on DraftKings as well. But in a vacuum, to me, it's Woods. But I mean, it's not a strong take by any means. All right.
Like, and they're gonna have like almost the exact same ownership.
Right, yeah. Why is Elon closing the offices at Twitter? There's been rumors of a hostile takeover. I don't know. Twitter is having some difficulties right now.
That's a legitimate conversation that I think DFS players need to have is like, if Twitter is dead, we need to reevaluate how we're going to get our news. Because like my first thought was like, oh, we'll just make sure we use the RG news alerts. But like, where do the people who post that get it from? Twitter. And so it's going to be like, that'll be a huge edge if Twitter actually just starts going down for a few days and you're able to find out that necessary news you need to find out in time over like for a couple days until that gets sorted.
All news will be delivered via TikTok dance. That's how the news medium will happen. Jason Martinez says, does Westbrook Akine get 8 targets again tonight? I'm banking on no on that, but I've been known to be wrong. Your boy Mike in the Discord is asking, is Cobb in the captain a good move? Certainly is for that salary relief on DraftKings like we've talked about. On FanDuel, it's just not necessary because you don't have the salary multiplier and the salary floor is so much higher. And you kind of answered that as we went with the same answer. Fair point on Burks potentially having a little more big play upside, but the question is, can Tannehill, make that come to fruition with that big play upside? Kind of remains to be seen. So, other thoughts?
The one thing I'd say quick, just with a couple minutes before lock, if I was playing 150, I would probably be overweight on Westbrook Akine. Just based on he's 5% owned. Absolutely nobody is going to be playing him. He still had 8 targets last week with Tannehill. So, like,
I'd play. Not any good.
I know, I agree. But, like, it's a single game slate.
Right.
And a wide receiver 3 at 5% ownership. So I'd probably
Everybody's
get,
like me and
I'd get,
want to play him.
Exactly. Like I'd get 10 to 15% of that.
Yeah, for sure. And the game theory aspect of Showdown is so interesting because, this guy might not be viable. You're not playing him in your season long leagues. You're not starting him unless you're in a super, deep league or something like that. But single game Showdown slate for DFS, 150-yard catch can be the difference between making a big profit and going home. Like the Monday Night Football showdowns were decided by that meaningless last-minute touchdown that some of us may have had under a certain number of points that did not win after that last touchdown, and we may or may not still be a little jaded about that. But that's okay. It happens. Stranger Beans, love that name, says, whatever happened to Geno Atkins? Stranger Beans, who knows? Let's see. Yeah,
There's only allowed to be one good Geno in the NFL at a time.
That's
And
Geno
so as
Smith.
soon as Geno Smith was about to rise to supremacy, Geno Atkins just was forced to retire.
I'm trying to see. So December of 2020, shoulder surgery, was placed on injured reserve, was released in 21, and hasn't signed with a team yet since then. So there
See,
you
the
go.
Geno rule caught up early. They knew Geno's been good for like a couple years now. It's just the general public didn't know because he was stuck behind Russ.
Which Seattle looks pretty sharp right now with that change. It's been a pretty good decline there from Russ. All right, we are at lock, and we are going to go ahead and get out of here. All lineups finalized. Everything's locked, good to go. Time to enjoy the game, everybody, and we hope you all have a great evening. So thanks to
Time to
TJ
build some NBA lineups right now because we got NBA lock in an hour and 45 minutes from now.
Oh, NBA hasn't even started yet tonight at all?
The first game of the NBA slate is at 10 p.m. Eastern.
What is that all about?
No,
See,
I
I've
guess
been on
trying to
video.
not coincide with the football game.
So, I mean, that's why. Is there only 2 games? 3 games. There's 3 games, and a slate that locks at 10 o'clock. That's wild. See, I got home late, and so I can. You're telling me I can still play NBA. I haven't missed anything.
You haven't missed anything. There's probably still going to be some contests. And if you haven't even done any research today, it doesn't even matter because Roth and Keith are going to be on crunch time helping you out. Only 2 people on there. Hell, if they need a third, I can hop back on there.
Crunch time, NBA crunch time at like 9:30.
9:30 Eastern time.
That's wild. I am old. See, it gets dark at like 4:30 these days, so it feels like it's close to midnight already. It's only 7 o'clock here. Anyway, I am babbling. We'll go ahead and get out of here. Thanks to TJ for joining me and letting me know that NBA hasn't started yet. And thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening, everybody. Enjoy the football, enjoy the hoops, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.